The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the center of the vast amphitheater, surrounded by empty seats that once held representatives from 47 different species. The silence was deafening. No chittering from the insectoid Zephyrians, no harmonic humming from the crystalline resonance, no philosophical debates from the scholarly Etherians. Just emptiness and the steady hum of life support systems keeping the station operational. "Status report," Chen commanded, her voice echoing in the hollow chamber. Lieutenant Rodriguez materialized as a hologram beside her, transmitting from the human vessel Defiance stationed outside. "All species-specific districts are confirmed silent, Commander. The Zephyrian hives show no movement, the resonant towers emit no frequency signatures, and even the quantum consciousness pods of the Etherians have gone dark." Chen nodded grimly. 3 weeks ago, an unknown signal had swept across the galaxy, a frequency so alien and overwhelming that every advanced species had simply stopped, their minds overwhelmed, their consciousness retreating into catatonic states, every species except one, humans. "Sir," Rodriguez continued, "we're receiving distress signals from 17 different systems, colony ships adrift, research stations going dark, entire civilizations falling silent." The irony wasn't lost on Chen. For centuries, humans had been considered the galaxy's most primitive member species. When they'd finally achieved faster-than-light travel and stumbled into the greater galactic community, they'd been barely tolerated, seen as crude, violent, and mentally inflexible. The other species had evolved beyond such base emotions as anger, fear, and desperation. They'd achieved perfect logical harmony with the universe. Now that harmony had become their downfall. Rodriguez prepped the rescue protocols. "We're going to wake up this galaxy." Over the following days, Chen led a growing fleet of human vessels across the galaxy. At each silent world, they found the same scene. Advanced civilizations frozen in time, their inhabitants trapped in mental feedback loops created by the mysterious signal. The humans, with their chaotic, illogical, and beautifully flawed minds, seemed to be the only ones capable of filtering out the overwhelming frequency. On the crystal world of Resonant Prime, Chen walked through towering spires that once sang with mathematical beauty. Now they stood mute, their inhabitants locked in harmonic paralysis. Human engineers worked frantically, installing neural dampening fields powered by Earth-designed quantum processors, technology the other species had dismissed as brutishly inefficient. "The dampening field is active, Commander," reported Dr. Kim, the expedition's xenopsychologist. "We should start seeing responses in approximately 6 hours." As Chen watched the first resonant tower begin to emit a faint, wavering note, she felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. On the insectoid world of Zephyr, human soldiers trained in the chaos of war navigated the complex hive structures to install localized signal scramblers. Their ability to function under stress and adapt to impossible situations proved invaluable as they worked to restore the collective consciousness of an entire species. In the quantum reality laboratories of the Etherian homeworld, human physicists, whose understanding of science was considered charmingly primitive by galactic standards, found solutions that the most advanced minds had missed. Where the Etherians had sought perfect mathematical harmony with the universe, humans brought something else: stubborn, irrational determination. "It doesn't make sense," Dr. Kim reported to Chen as they stood in the restored council chamber, watching representatives slowly return to consciousness. Every other species evolved beyond base emotions, beyond the neural chaos that defines human consciousness. They achieved perfect mental clarity. "And that's exactly why they fell," Chen replied, watching a Zephyrian delegate slowly extend its antennae, testing the air for familiar chemical signatures. "We never evolved beyond our contradictions. We're still the species that can hold two opposing thoughts simultaneously, that can function in chaos, that can adapt when adaptation seems impossible." The Etherian ambassador, a being of pure thought inhabiting a crystalline matrix, flickered to life. Its first words after weeks of silence were directed at Chen. "Commander, how did your species resist the signal of perfect harmony?" Chen smiled, a purely human expression that had once confused other species. "Because we've never been perfect. We're stubborn, illogical, and chaotic. We argue with ourselves, contradict our own beliefs, and somehow function despite it all. What overwhelmed your perfectly ordered minds was just another day of noise for us. As the chamber filled with the sounds of 47 different species slowly awakening, chittering, humming quantum fluctuations, Chen realized something profound had shifted in the galaxy. Humans were no longer the primitive junior members of the galactic community. They had become something else entirely. The species other civilizations called when perfection failed. The signal of perfect harmony, the Etherian continued, its matrix pulsing with what might have been embarrassment, was intended to eliminate chaos from consciousness across the galaxy. We had calculated that evolved minds would transcend it, but you calculated wrong, Chen finished. Evolution isn't about achieving perfection. It's about surviving imperfection. In the months that followed, human-designed neural chaos generators were installed on every major world, insurance against future attempts at mental homogenization. The species that had once dismissed humanity's primitive emotional responses now studied them with newfound respect. And in the halls of the Galactic Council, when debates grew too orderly and solutions seemed impossible, representatives would look to the human section and make a simple request. Perhaps our human colleagues could introduce some productive chaos to this discussion. Commander Sarah Chen would smile that uniquely human smile and stand to speak, knowing that in a galaxy of perfect minds, sometimes what was needed most was a beautifully flawed one. When every other species fell silent, humans had indeed roared, not with volume but with the magnificent noise of consciousness that refused to be quieted.